Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a video review. And for this video, we're going to be taking a look at Redfall, a game that's the newest game from Arkane Studio, published by Bethesda and Microsoft Game Studios, for the Xbox Series X and S. I'm facing this off my time playing it on the Series S via GamePass. The game's also available on PC via Steam and also on PC Game Pass though. And if you're interested in any gameplay footage, I will link down in the description down below this video, or you can click on the card that will appear up on this YouTube video. And for parents out there, Redfall is rated M for mature audiences only, ages 17 up by the ESRB rating system though. When it comes to Arkane, most people know them for creating basically the Dishonor series, basically Deathloop, which was one of their last game, and of course Prey. And they have been sort of getting, have been recognized for releasing critically acclaimed games and everything like that. Redfall is sort of an interesting situation from them though. This was a game that basically was supposedly like an online multiplayer shooter and all, and when the game was originally announced, there was some perks and interest in this game though. The idea of something that sort of ankles to sort of a Borderlands or a Far Cry approach though. However, a lot of that interest sort of turned against the game, mostly because of the bad PR that basically Arkane, Bethesda, and even Microsoft to a certain extent pushed out though. Some of it was when we started to learn what the frame rate for the Xbox Series X and S version, to learning about basically the always online part and everything like that. So there were a lot of things that unfortunately did not go well for Redfall though. And when the game finally came out though, it got hammered hard by everybody, by critics, by fans and all. Let's just say the internet in a way kind of tore that game a new one on so many levels, to the point that when Phil Spencer was interviewed though by Kind of Funny Games though, there was no way to spit this in any way, in any form, and he had to really apologize for the disaster of the launch that basically came in. That and the fact that they talked about how they should have been there earlier and all that stuff. And then of course we had the Jason Schreier story that came out that really showed a lot of disorganization, and some of the maybe taking a hands-off approach isn't always exactly the best approach for Microsoft though. Well, after spending some time playing with Redfall through Game Pass and everything like that, I will say this though. I don't think Redfall is as awful as the internet makes it sound like it is, but I don't deny the fact that this game clearly, there's no denying something went seriously wrong during the development of this though, and that's really unfortunate because there is some good elements out of it. It's just a lot of the bad stuff just really cannot be overshadowed and everything like that. So why don't we get started with the pros and the cons though, and we'll start off first with the pros though. And I will say it's basically the loop system. Anybody who's played any game with a looter shooter or anything like that mostly won't know games like Far Cry to even Borderlands, which is a pretty good example. I'm probably one of my favorite looter shooters out there. And in a way, Redfall kind of falls into that approach though. Some of the guns in the game look interesting. You have like your sniper rifles, shotgun, pistols, flare guns, even guns, like with stakes and everything like that. It adds interesting to the gameplay though, especially when it comes to taking out the vampires in the game, where you really have to either burn them or do enough damage that you have enough stakes to jam it right into their heart and everything like that though. But the loot system isn't bad, and one thing about the loot system I like is that you don't have to go someplace to sell your weapons. You can just sell it right on the fly right away, and I think that is really neat and everything like that though. And I will admit I have been enjoying the game from a single player experience. Have yet to try the multiplayer part, although I tried it once and I couldn't really find any lobbies or anything like that. But in terms of the gameplay and the loot system though, I would say the loot system isn't as bad as some people might take it out to be though. The next thing I do want to talk about is the approach, which I mentioned in the gameplay, and that the game takes a Borderlands and Far Cry approach, and I think that's not a bad thing. You do have your typical stuff, such as if you open a safe house, you can access a warp point, or if you access a certain area, you can sort of warp there and everything like that. The safe houses will all have their own set missions. You complete those, you can take on a vampire underboss and everything like that. So, I mean, some of the approaches are certainly not bad or anything like that. And I will say, taking a Borderlands and Far Cry approach, it certainly isn't a bad thing, at least in my book. I don't mind this approach and all that. I know some people will disagree, but this one isn't necessarily a bad approach, at least in my book, though. And last but not least, in terms of the art style, though, the game still has somewhat of the Arkane art style that people know from games like Dishonor, Prey, or even, Deathloop and everything like that. And that is still somewhat present, though. Some of the designs for, like, the vampires, I mean, they look nice and everything like that. The world of Redfall doesn't look that bad or anything like that. So some of the art styles for Arkane is still good and all, and that certainly isn't a bad thing or anything like that. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2, which is the cons. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my video review of Redfall for the Xbox Series X and S. Game's also available on PC, and I'm playing this through GamePass. So now that I gave you the pros, why don't we get started with the cons? And unfortunately, as much as I think this game isn't as awful as the internet says it is, it doesn't mean that. Let's just say that I can see where a lot of the criticisms are. We'll start off with the visuals now. Now, I mentioned about the Arkane art style, and that still is still present in this game to a certain degree, but there's no denying the fact that once you plug this in, even on my Series S, the visuals take a really, really big hit, though. I mean, we're talking about, it just looks like not even close to 720p. I mean, there are Switch games that I think look somewhat better than what Redfall does, even when playing it on my TV and everything like that, though. I mean, some of the character designs are still good. I think the vampires don't look good in the game and all, but otherwise, the downgrade in the visuals are pretty noticeable, and it is a little bit unfortunate, though. The next thing I do want to talk about is the frame rate, and for the most part, the game does maintain a 30 frames per second based on my time with the game, though. Now, do I think it's a huge issue? To some degree, no, mostly because I've played games at 30 frames per second, and while I do agree that the game should have been at 60 frames per second, though, 30 frames per second isn't necessarily bad when done correctly and all. That said, the thing to me is that this could have been not become a huge issue had it not been for sort of the awful PR nightmare that both Microsoft, Bethesda, and Arkane handled in terms of the frame rates and everything like that, especially as we got closer to the release and we learned about basically it running at 30 frames per second and all that. And I have noticed sometimes, though, when playing the game at 30 frames per second, there was basically some stutter here and there, though, but nothing to the point that it ruined my gameplay experience, or I ran into anything where I was basically booted out of the game or anything like that. So for me, 30 frames per second isn't necessarily bad, but the fact that the way that they handled the PR and going into this game, though, it is a little bit unfortunate. Maybe if the visuals were maybe a little bit better looking, I might have tolerated to a certain degree, though. But unfortunately, the fact that it's running at 30 frames per second is somewhat disappointed, and knowing the fact that they weren't upfront about it from the beginning, though, is what hurts the game even more, to be exact, though. And last but not least has to do with the AI, and to me, it's alright to a certain degree, but it's far from being perfect. Now, I'm not playing on the hardest difficulty or anything like that, but I can understand why the AI isn't exactly great or anything like that. I mean, one example is the cultists that you deal in the game. These are humans that have aligned themselves with the vampires, though. Sometimes they put on a challenge. Other times I find them like either like stuck between a doorway, or if I'm right in front of them, they won't attack right away or anything like that. There are certain degrees with the AI. It's okay in some parts, but not okay in other parts. And I think that is a little bit unfortunate with the AI or anything like that. Does it make the game unplayable? Again, to me, the answer is no, though, but it is noticeable, however. Overall, I would say in regards to Redfall, I won't say it's necessarily as awful as the internet makes it sound like it is, but I don't deny this is a very disappointing outing from not only Arkane and Bethesda, but from Microsoft itself, especially them trying to push Game Pass in general, though. At its best, though, I think the loot system isn't bad. I like some of the ideas that they did, though. I like how some of the gameplay does take a little bit of a page out of Borderlands and Far Cry, and some of the art style that Arkane is known for is still there. But at its worst, though, the visuals are definitely have taken a major hit, and you can see that very carefully in the game, though. The fact that the game on the console is running at 30 frames per second is somewhat disappointing, especially after the whole PR nightmare in terms of basically trying to sell the game on us and everything like that, not to mention the previews were based off the PC version. And the AI is it's okay to some degree, but sometimes it's not that great at all in the game at all. And I think this is really a shame and really unfortunate, though, because I think somewhere buried in there, though, Redfall can be a good game or anything like that. But after you heard about everything that went through, especially with that Jason Schreier report from Bloomberg, it's clearly a lot went wrong, though. And while I don't fully blame Microsoft entirely, as I think a good chunk of it does fall on the leadership at Bethesda, Arkane, and ZeniMax as well, especially pushing for the live service, though, that's not to say Microsoft doesn't share some of the blame, especially when trying to take a somewhat of a hands-off approach, which not yes and no to a certain degree on that. And that is really unfortunate, though, because I think Redfall could have been a good game if they've handled the PR better and certain things were handled a bit better or anything like that. Could this game recover over time? I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility, though, to be exact, though. I mean, again, look at games like Final Fantasy XIV to Cyberpunk 2077, so it's not out of the realm of possibilities, though. That being said, though, that's not to say that it actually will recover or anything like that, though. I mean, we've seen games that have had bad launch and have never really recovered from it. Anthem is a good example. Babylon Falls, though. Marvel's Avengers. So, I mean, a lot of it is going to be based off of what Arkane, Bethesda, Microsoft does, though. I would say they have a major uphill climb on this one if they really want to earn people's trust again. And they're not going into their June 11th Xbox Showcase Starfield Direct, as of the recording of this video, in a very good position, though. So we'll have to wait and see over time whether or not basically Redfall will recover. But right now, it's a very I can see why not everyone would recommend this game right now, and I kind of have to agree, though. I mean, for those who have Game Pass, though, I mean, yeah, it's worth trying out to see if you think it's as bad as the internet makes it sound like it is. But for those who don't have Game Pass, I would say I would hold off on it until we know for certain if they actually fix the game or bring it up to 60 frames per second or bring it up to a state where it's actually much more enjoyable than it was originally at launch. But for right now, I would say Redfall is certainly not an awful game, but I will say it is a very disappointed, and I kind of see a bad game, unfortunately. And that's really, really sad, though. And I seriously hope Arkane, Bethesda, Microsoft will actually learn from this experience, to be exact, and moving forward to hopefully put out better titles for Game Pass and also the Xbox Series X and S as well, and PC for those who buy Xbox games on PC and all. Okay, this concludes my video review of Redfall for the Xbox Series X and S, though. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about Redfall, though? Do you think Redfall is as bad as the internet makes it sound like it is? Do you think it's not as awful as what the internet's making it sound like it is, though? Have you tried it through GamePass? Have you not tried it at all, though? Do you think this game has a chance to recover, or do you think that it's beyond saving at this point, though? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You do it through PayPal Me, Patreon, or Steam Labs. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!